Welcome to Talent Buzz, where I talk about talent acquisition with fast-growing SaaS companies. Today, I'm joined by Elin, a Chief People Officer at Puzzel, and we are mainly talking about three topics today. First, you should be always hiring, and that's a key on finding the right person when you really need them. Secondly, candidate experience and how to really make sure that you are getting the best candidates in. And even though the timing wouldn't be right for these particular candidates right moment, how to get them interested anyway for the future. And thirdly, we are talking about retention, how Puzzel were able to make their retention better, make sure that their people are happy and performing on their company. But let's start today's episode with a little introduction to our guest, Elin.
My name is Elin Flipp, and I'm the Chief People Officer at Puzzel, one of the leading CCaaS companies in Europe. It's a very, very exciting journey that we are on. We are growing a lot. We're doing some M&As. There is a lot of transformation going on in the company. My own background, I started as a tech recruiter, and then I have worked mainly in SaaS and tech, and I'm very interested in HR tech and automation and finding smart and modern solutions to make the HR work easier.
Yeah. One thing that kind of caught my eye when we were prepping for this episode was a thing that you actually sent me over message, and you said that the best way to be on target with recruitment is not having the vacancy. Can you open up a bit what you mean by that? Because I think that was very, very interesting kind of insight.
I've been in both situations. So both in the I really need to fill this vacancy, and then you take decisions that might be a bit short term. And my kind of view on this now is it is important to really take your time. So it's kind of an upward spiral, if you say so. If you put the time into finding the right person, even if it takes a bit longer, you really make sure to have the culture fit, to have like everything you need in this candidate. Take your time to have a good candidate process, have a good employee experience. That in turn turns into people wanting to stay longer, being more engaged, and less turnover. Less turnover will mean that you're less stressed when you are filling roles, which means for the next person, you can take your time, find the right person. So it's kind of like a rolling stone. Like if you start there, if you have the right people, you don't really have to be as stressed, but it is an investment.
It is. And I think especially, for startups that are early on, and then you need to be at the same time solving the problems that you kind of currently have, but then at the same time, investing in kind of ongoing talent acquisition, employer branding, and all of that. And I've been thinking actually a lot about that. And I'm a big fan of the idea that you should actually be recruiting the most when you are not needing the people, because then you are exactly in the situation that you can find the best people. And it's something that we've been able to do in our own business as well. We, for example, just hired a person called Linda to our team. Linda started on like 2 weeks ago roughly, and for example with her the hiring process was around 2 years. And now someone might think like, fuck, that's a long time. It is, but it wasn't traditional hiring process in a way. It was a lot of those discussions back and forth, and actually we knew like a long time ago that we want to hire that person, but then it was more about waiting the perfect timing for us, when we have an open role that would fit that person, and when she is in a situation that she could join us. And now the perfect time came. But I'm been thinking regarding finding the perfect candidate. But let's imagine that, like for example in your product team, like now a person would leave the team, a crucial person, and then you need a new person there quickly, and then the current team is overworked already. There is a lot of deadlines that are kind of past the deadlines already. How to kind of solve those kind of situations? Because I know there is the kind of need to hire someone, and then you might feel like when you find an okay person that, hey, okay, maybe I take this person because the team is overworked and all that. But like, how do you think in those kind of situations, like is it still like better to wait until you find the perfect persons, or like is there a situation where it's like okay to hire an okay person in a way?
I would say that I really, really think it's worth it to wait. I have been
Yeah.
in situations where I hired someone, it's like, yeah, they can kind of work, and then it turns out they're not performing as well, they're not as happy at the company. It is a short-term solution. But then I know how important it is, especially for startups. But then on the other side, it's never as important to find the right people as when you're starting up a company. Each hire makes such a significant change. Of course, you do that in a big company, but when you're starting up, like it should be the band, it should be only the perfect people. But I do know, like you are sitting there, you're looking at the clock, the team is stressed, and you do need to do something. So the things you can do is the always be hiring approach, always like be in contact, like working on your employer branding, taking recommendations from employees, keeping in contact with interesting people for the future. That is one way to solve it. And then also, I kind of think like even if it takes a couple of extra weeks, and you have to ask someone in the team to cover a bit, take those extra weeks. It's gonna save you money in alternative cost and time in going forward. But I think the always be hiring approach, like you mentioned, I think that is good. Like we're always interested to talk to good candidates, and we have had the same situation as you. People are coming back, like, it wasn't the right timing, but now it is. Can I talk to you guys? So we have hired people, the same as you. It's like, yeah, they're in our, like we have our eye on them. We're keeping in contact, but maybe not now.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one of the key things in kind of making sure that people are coming back is like, having a good candidate experience. Also
Yeah.
for people that, I've noticed, there are sometimes people that are, let's say, just too junior at the moment, but like from
Mm,
cultural perspective, they would be great. And then I think like, okay, if they grow 1 or 2 more years, maybe then they are a good fit. Or it might be
yeah.
the other way around, that person doesn't feel like, hey, now is the right time. But I think whatever the reason is, like if you create a good kind of candidate
Mm,
experience, then it's a big possibility that they will come back. So maybe we could talk a bit about how to create a good candidate experience. And I personally see that there is kind of two levels over there. So
mm,
there's the kind of basics, and then there's the super nice to have. And you know
yeah.
what I mean by the nice to have stuff is, every now and then I feel like, hey, should we do this thing where we send a chocolate to a candidate home when we say no thank you, and then
Mm,
you are kind of trying to find those fancy tricks. But I think before you can
yeah.
use fancy tricks, you need to step up the
Mm,
basics over there. So what would you say if you look at like how you are approaching candidate
mm.
experience? Like what are the basic steps that you have taken there?
I would say, like, I almost think you don't need a fancy fix, because at
Mm.
this point, a lot of people I'm talking to, they're complaining so much about being ghosted after applying for a job or going on an interview. So I think just making sure that everybody gets feedback and gets good feedback, already there, you're like outstanding as an employer. So the bar is kind of low, but I am very proud we have an in-house function, and we have a +100 candidate NPS promoter score. So that is very good. So when I was in process for this job, I talked to the talent manager, and I just thought like, oh, he's really, really good, but maybe it's because he's hiring his own boss. Like he's doing everything extra. And then I started, and I realized, no, this is just how he is. So I get so much good feedback from candidates, from managers, and so on. And I would say the key thing he does is the feedback part. So we kind of have a lot of steps in our recruitment process. We sometimes we have some psychometric tests, also like looking into like doing cases and similar, meeting different people. But he makes sure that he replies fast. Like you never have to wait and wonder like, do they want to take the next step or so on. So he
Mm.
chases the manager to like, we need to let the candidate know. So we're very, very quick. And then he does take the time to give both positive and negative feedback. And I think a lot of recruiters, they like, yeah, we're not going to hire these people. Why should I have an uncomfortable conversation and take this time to really give them feedback? But he does it, even if we don't hire them, he books a call, and he's like, these are the things that stood out in a positive way. These are the things we were worried about. And it takes extra time, of course, and it does it for all the candidates. But I think that's maybe like the sweet spot. You don't have to send chocolate. You just have to like be quick, give feedback, and like genuinely take care of the candidates. Like, I'm happy that you applied to Puzzel. Like, thank you for being interested.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you that I think you don't need tricks. Like, if we still like look at the average candidate experience is very shitty in most of the companies. So the things that you mentioned there are more than enough. And but one question regarding there, because I've been thinking about the feedback loop for the candidates, and then kind of where to draw the line. And I do understand that, let's say, if a candidate is being interviewed, after that one, I feel like we owe that candidate a feedback, and we should take the time to do that one. But how about like applications only? Like, what do you think over there? Let's say you get 200 applications for one role. I think you just cannot use manual time to go through everyone and give everyone personalized feedback. Like, where do you draw the line between personalized feedback and kind of general feedback? In a way.
Yeah, so I think since we are in tech, 200 applications is never the case for us. I wish it was. But I remember when I was worked with IT recruitment, I had a rule. I'm gonna, like, the effort level they put in, I'm gonna match it. So if it was just an application, maybe they had like a pre-printed resume. And then I usually did something like in the when I rejected people, I said like in this role we are looking for this, this, and this. And we screen out the people that don't match those requirements. So then they can read that and kind of, okay, yeah, it's true. Like, they wanted to focus on the previous experience of this framework. I didn't have that. So then they can kind of read into why they weren't selected. And then as the candidate invests more time, then we should invest more time in the feedback. So have they been to an interview? Then I think make sure to have a call afterwards. And then if they are the final candidate, make sure that you really come prepared with good and concrete feedback that they can use. Of course, with their consent. Some people are very uncomfortable. They just want to, okay, I was rejected, goodbye. I don't want to, like, it's uncomfortable for me. So ask, do you want this feedback? And then come prepared. So I think like matching the effort they put in, I think that's a good rule of thumb.
And is it for you, like for the listeners regarding the kind of team, like is it mainly you and the hiring manager running that one, or do you have someone else on the recruitment team also helping with that one, or is it mostly the responsibility of the hiring managers?
So we have a talent manager, so he's kind of running the process together with the hiring managers, and he is the one making sure that people get good feedback, and he's also very good at taking notes, gathering feedback from different parts of the interview, and then usually he is the one that gives the total feedback based on all of the previous interviews we have. We are actually hiring someone new to the TA team, a junior recruiter, so soon we will be 2 people there.
Oh, very nice, very nice. I've been testing out one thing kind of personally in our own latest search for a recruiter on the feedback, and as you mentioned, like if someone is already coming to the interview, then of course having very very personalized feedback. But I did it in a way for the person that sent application but didn't move forward. We got, I think, like 50 of those roughly.
That's a very nice touch.
Yeah, and I send for those 50, I send an email, like kind of generic email in a way that, hey, we are not moving forward with you, and here are the reasons, like no experience from working in SaaS companies, or no experience in recruiting agency, or no experience from the, let's say, Finnish and Swedish market where we work the most and stuff like that. But then I added a line there: if you wish to have more personalized feedback, please let me know, and I will share a quick Loom video with you where I share a bit more. And then I got
that's a really nice touch.
Yeah, and I think I got like 5 or 10 of those answers. And then what I basically did was, I put up the Loom, opened the screen share of that candidate's LinkedIn profile, and kind of went through the LinkedIn profile, what I've noticed there, and what I felt like I was missing, or also kind of giving tips. For example, like if I noticed that, hey, that person used to work in an agency, but there wasn't any, let's say, data on what kind of roles that person has been working, or amount of placements or markets that they've been working for was kind of missing there. I gave the feedback on that one. It took some time, but then actually eventually I think all of the people that I sent a Loom video to were very, very happy with that one, and I think they are now, speaking good things about us on the market somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't remember the numbers, but having a bad experience in a recruitment process, there was some research done on this, and it doesn't only make you not a promoter of that company and less likely to apply for a job again. Actually, if it's like a commercial product, it makes you less likely to promote their product. So like candidate experience is really, really important for multiple reasons.
Yeah, and I can still remember, like from my own past, that there are, some companies that I still have a bad feeling
Yeah.
about, 5 years ago or 7 years ago when I applied for a job and I never heard back, or I went to interview and I never heard back. And now, there are still those companies, like if someone from there calls me and tries to sell the services, I have the negative kind of feeling coming to my mind. I'm not saying that, I make buying decisions based on that one, but there is a big negative feeling still. So it
No,
might
but
have
I'm pretty
effect.
sure there is research done that it affects purchase decisions. So it is very important. And also, even if it's not the right candidate now, it can be the right candidate in a couple of years. So like make sure you don't burn your bridges. We have had people come back to us later and like, oh, I had such a good feeling about your company. It didn't turn out well the last time. I'm just like, do you have any vacancies? And I'm always very happy when that happens. It's like it says a lot about the experience they had.
Yeah. But hey, then, after hiring those candidates, after creating a good candidate experience, people join, there's onboarding. But then there is, retention of people, basically. Like, are people happy? Are people performing? And, when we prepared to this episode, you mentioned that you had a problem, might sound a bit dramatic, but like you notice like there is some potential over there to kind of fix that one, and you were quite successful on fixing those challenges that you had. Can you talk a bit on that one? Like, first of all, like how did you kind of identify that, okay, hey, here's a potential bottleneck for our growth, and how you started to solving retention related challenges?
Yeah, so it might also be a COVID effect, but the last year we lowered turnover by 50%. So that is super, super good. So lowering attrition, like a lot of people think it's like, oh, it's about career development. It's not only about career development. Of course, it is very important. Like if you have people, especially in tech, the average is staying 2 years at a company. Turnover is kind of natural, but it is not only about progression. It is a lot to go with engagement and overall happiness. So I think the EMPS question is kind of relevant here. Would you recommend this place of work to someone you know? If you are happy at your workplace, then you are more likely to stay. Then, of course, all of the other things, you have to have career progression, you have to take care of the culture, you have to be challenged in what you do and so on. But I think it starts a lot with feeling like you are at the right place of work. So I think those two go hand in hand. Like if you take care of your employees, then they will want to stay. So for us, we did a lot of a deep dive into the employee survey. So actually we went in the beginning of 2022, we had plus 13 in the EMPS question. And at the end of 2023, we went up to plus 37. So we had a significant increase. And I think a lot of it has to do, as I said, like it is like a positive spiral. When things start to go in the right way, then it's easier to make those good calls. And we worked a lot with transparency and co-ownership. So sharing the positive and negative things we see, like we saw this in the survey, this is a challenge area for us, both the scores that are high and the scores that are lower. We never had like alarmingly low scores in anything, but one area is, for example, strategic alignment. It's one of the lower scores, but it was a very big focus area. So we brought it up reoccurringly, because this is so important. And one of the things is like involving the employees and like, okay, this is low, but what is it you want? What is it you need? Only they can provide that context. So then you have to work with the managers and also be transparent with employees. So one of the things we did, like for example, we have a weekly all hands meeting for the entire company where different departments host that. That is one thing that came out of like, okay, what do you need? What do you want? Like, how do we do this? So I think you can sit and look at the numbers, but like only the people answering is gonna be able to provide the context. So it's kind of like working together with employees and managers. I think that's the only way to do it.
I agree. We have a goal here in Talent B to be the best possible working place for talent acquisition professionals. And how we actually started that one was, most of the companies, when you are establishing a company, they start the company with doing a lot of customer research around the problem that they are solving. We did that one as well. But actually, even before that one, we did a research where we talked with a lot of talent acquisition professionals around, what are their challenges in the industry, what is the problem with other agencies where they used to work with, like why they don't enjoy it. And we actually started from there to build a company. And then, if I think how we are doing decisions right now, it is a lot based on what our people want. And it goes everything. It goes regarding what kind of customers we want to work with. It goes regarding benefits. As a very early stage startup, for example, like we just cannot take all the benefits there is. But it's more about asking our team like what they want to do. Like, do they rather have a super fancy office or company trips, or do they rather have some kind of lunch benefit or sports benefit, or do they rather have their healthcare or more summer holidays, or whatever the things are. I'm giving our people to decide that one rather than me as a CEO deciding those.
Yeah, and I also think it's better if you are at the point like, oh, we can't offer all of it. Making them a part of the decision makes it feel easier. So instead of them saying like, why don't we have more holidays? Other companies have it. Then they've been involved in the decision. This is what the budget looks like. This is what we are going to have to do. What do you prefer? Then it's kind of like we're all in this together kind of vibe, instead of them just asking you as the CEO for like, why don't we have this? Like we discussed this, you were a part of this decision. So I really like that approach. Of course, it is harder. You can't like vote on everything, but making sure that you can work through your managers, like getting input from different parts of the organization. And sometimes I do that. I just ask like, could you please talk to your teams about this?
Yeah, I think it's good for decision making, really, to gather the data where the decision kind of impacts the most.
Yeah, and also it's like we are very spread out in different countries. It's like what is common and appreciated is very different. So overall, I would say our big thing is flexibility. We actually won an award in the UK for flexible workplaces. So that's mostly what people say that they appreciate with our workplace. We have some people that like have done workation, like work from a different location during a shorter period of time. We are very flexible with working time, especially since we have a bit different time zones, like Bulgaria, UK, Nordics. You can be a bit flexible if you need to pick up your kids, or if you need to go to the gym and so on. So we have a lot of like trust in people to manage their own work time.
Yeah. Well, hey, last thing that I would actually like to discuss, it is towards retention, but actually a bit different side of that one, because most of the time, when we talk about retention of our people, we talk about things, like how to basically handle the current people, like the culture and leadership and performance, and things you mentioned regarding, let's say, strategic alignment and all that. But then I think one thing that really affects on retention of people is actually the recruitment part. And it kind of goes back to, are we overselling the opportunity for the potential candidates? And, especially when you are hiring, highly skilled people, let's say on tech side or go-to-market side, that, every SaaS company out there wants to have. It is a kind of competition on getting those best talent. And what easily happens is we are overselling. You are
Mm.
overselling on your company. You are overselling the flexibility that you have. You are overselling how fun is it work at us. And then I've been always thinking about how to find the balance between there. I'm personally in our own recruitment, I'm a big fan of kind of selling the good stuff, like really, really hard, talking about those openly. But then I also talk super openly about the bad things as well, because every company has those. Like if you are growing, you always have some kind of growing pain over there, or you might have some problems on your tech side of things, or you might be that you haven't found your product market fit and selling is hard, but you always have those hard things as well. So how do you find the balance on that one? Like how hard you can sell the opportunity for candidates to make sure that you don't oversell?
I've fallen into that trap myself, really wanting to focus on the positive sides, getting people in. No, it always comes back to haunt you. You shouldn't do that. So I would say, like, you should sell it in. You should paint it in a positive picture. But if you want to hire the right people, they shouldn't be scared off from the challenges. If you want to hire the right people, they should feel like this is an interesting challenge. So we kind of have that right now. We are hiring someone for the Netherlands, and we had a candidate who was going to do like a case and present like, this would be my way to get more into the market. And decided to, after starting to write that case, decided to drop out because I think this is too much. I don't think I could do this. And then, of course, like, it was a late stage interview and we had a good impression. I was a bit sad at first. And then I was like, you know what? No, I'm very happy that this person realized that now instead of after we hire them. So like, being honest with the challenges is going to lead to you hiring the right people. And that was kind of the thing, like, when I was interviewed, like, these are the pros, these are the cons. And I was like, I have some ideas on how to solve that. So I already like started thinking like, oh, when I start, I want to like focus a lot on like leadership training. And I was like almost like starting in my mind I wanted to solve the problems. So I think don't be scared to share the challenges, but then like keep it positive.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you got a lot of good ideas about SaaS talent acquisition. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to share it on your social so others can hear it too. And if you have a topic in mind that you would like me to cover in this podcast, share it with me as well. I'm Samuli, CEO and co-founder in Talentbee, where we help fast-growing SaaS companies in their talent acquisition. Make sure to follow us, make sure to follow this podcast, and have an awesome week. Bye-bye.